Hello guys, I'm back with another video. This time it's the 2022 Senate prediction for late October. So let's get right into it. Idaho, North Dakota, South Dakota. These states are really not going to be competitive. They're just safe Republican states. Alaska, Republicans are going to win here no matter what. It's probably going to be Murkowski by a likely margin. I think she'll perform pretty well there. Alaskans tend to like moderate candidates, and I think she'll, as seen in electing Mary Patola and as seen as Murkowski's strength in Alaska over the years. So I think we filled out pretty much all the safe states. So let's get right into it. First thing we're going to start out. Well, actually, I forgot California, Oregon. Can't forget about them. Okay. So Utah, Mick Mullen has a chance of making this into a competitive race. I mean, you see the Republican in this race begging for Mitt Romney's endorsement, and I do think he needs it if he wants to win by a safe margin. However, because Romney's sitting this one out, it's going to be a likely race. McMullen's an independent. He's pretty much center-right on policies, so I do think that'll appeal to a lot of people in Utah who are just more moderate voters, and I do think he could probably make this into a very competitive race. However, I think the Republicans are going to win here by 8% still against him. In Iowa, Chuck Grassley is probably going to win by 8%, I would say. It's his age is the biggest issue, nothing policy-wise. It's just that he's very old, and voters are reluctant to elect someone who's nearly 90 years old to the U.S. Senate for another 6-year term. And who knows? They could be worried that Chuck Grassley's only going to serve a year or two, and then he's going to resign, and then he gets his grandson appointed to the Iowa Senate seat. So that may be something in Iowa voters' minds, but I still think Grassley's a strong incumbent, and he'll still win here by 8 to 9%. He could even win by over 10 still, but Seltzer did show this as a closer race than expected, so we have to listen to them because they are the gold standard for Iowa polling. In Washington, this is going to be a likely race. I think now, with a recent generic ballot being in favor of Republicans, this race is going to go back into the likely column. Democrats are still going to win here by about 8 to 9%, though. Republicans really don't have a chance here still, and I do think it's like the pollsters here that show it as like a lane race, and the Democrat only has a 3% lead. They're just overhyping it. The Republican candidate's not even that good. There's no way it's going to be into the lean margin in Washington State. It's going to be a likely state, though. Colorado is also going to be a likely state. I mean, Joe Dea and Trump are feuding. Trump really just doesn't like the guy. So I think that's going to hurt Republican turnout decently here, and this has a chance of going safe Democratic now because of that. But I still think most voters here wouldn't really change their minds about who they're voting for. Maybe some hardcore Republicans will change their mind, but I think it's going to stay as a likely race in favor of Democrats. In the state of Florida, I do think Rubio is going to pull off a likely victory in this state. He's going to underperform Ron DeSantis by a bit, just according to the polling. And the early voting is showing signs that Republicans are doing pretty well in Florida, so I think Rubio gets a high single digits victory, probably 8 to 9% against Val Demings, but some polls have shown him only up by 6. So I'm going to say probably 7 to 8% victory for Rubio here, just my official guess. In Ohio, this is borderline a likely Republican race for J.D. Vance. I think he'll probably win by 4%. Just a lean margin victory because Tim Ryan's a very good candidate. He's running a good campaign, and if this was a neutral or Democratic leaning year, I could totally see Tim Ryan winning this Ohio Senate seat. However, it's looking like it's a neutral. It's looking like it's a leaning Republican year, just leaning, not a red wave, but a leaning wave for Republicans. So I think Vance will be able to ride that small little wave into a 4% victory. In Wisconsin, Ron Johnson is the incumbent here, and a lot of the polls have shown him with a pretty decent lead, so I think he'll pull off a 3% victory in the state of Wisconsin. And North Carolina, I mean, it's a very even race here. Democrat has shown some strength in the polls, but I think the Republicans, Ted Budd, he's a non-controversial candidate. He'll still pull off probably a 3 to 4% victory against the Democrat Cheri Beasley, who's honestly a pretty good Democratic Senate candidate. In New Hampshire, this race is probably going to be a 6% victory for Maggie Hassan. She's a pretty good incumbent, pretty strong one, so I do think she'll pull off this victory here. I mean, she did unseat a Republican in 2016. She unseated a Republican by like 1,000 or 2,000 votes before. So she's a very strong and formidable candidate, and the Republican candidate here just sucks. Don Bolduc is very weak, and even his own internal polls can't even show him with a lead here, so he's not winning. The Democrat's going to win by 6% here. In Arizona, Mark Kelly, even in the Republican internal poll, still holds a lead against Blake Masters. And I don't know why people still think that Masters is going to win here. If you're not leading in like any polls, even the Republican ones, and I know the Republican internal polls show it within the margin of error, but there has to be a massive polling miss for Kelly to lose in Arizona. There just has to be. And he's out fundraising Blake Masters by a lot, and he's outspending him in the state, so it's pointing to 3% to 4%. Well, no, I'd say about 3% Mark Kelly wins by here. Let's see here. And the next, all these states are probably going to be in the tilt column. So Fetterman, even in the Republican internal polls, he does show a lead here. However, I am recording this video a couple days ago when this is released, so it could entirely change. Maybe Oz is leading some Republican internal polls. I know Oz led in a poll, but this pollster is Wick Polling. I never seen them before in my life. They're just an unknown pollster. I know they did some polls in 2020, but some people have said it just looked like the same margin for every state, so I don't really trust their polling here that show Oz up by like 4 or 5 points. I don't trust it. I still think Fetterman has a narrow advantage here, but he's in trouble if he doesn't perform really well in the debate coming up in October. So he has to hope he does decent in the debate because Oz is gaining some momentum and Republicans have a good chance at maybe even winning the seat. In Nevada, Laxalt has showed continued resiliency in the polls here. He's still leading by a tilt margin, I would say, because polls do underestimate Democrats in this state. But I still think he's going to pull it off because Laxalt has no scandals against him. He's actually he was elected before in Nevada. So I do think he'll be able to pull off a victory here by a tilt margin so far, but don't count Democrats out. They still have the early vote, and we still have to analyze that. In Georgia, so far, Warnock's shown with pretty much a 2% lead against Walker, even after all the controversies about Walker. Maybe it's just that Brian Kemp is running a good campaign and he's pulling Republicans to vote in Georgia. Or it's more likely Republicans don't care about all the scandals about Herschel Walker. But I still think Warnock's going to have the advantage because I do think this race is going to go to the runoff. And Democratic voters are still going to be very energized to turn out. And they've shown before in runoffs they outturned out Republicans in the last time in 2021. So I do think Warnock still has the advantage here. He did pretty decent in the debate as well. I mean, Herschel Walker with a little police badge stunt in the debate. I can't see that helping his image among moderate independent voters. So this is how they see the Senate so far. The most competitive Senate races: Pennsylvania, Georgia, and Nevada. Republicans have a good shot at winning Senate control. I mean, they could just win Pennsylvania and just get it. That's their path to victory. Win Pennsylvania. It's do or die for Republicans in the state. So that's my election prediction of the 2022 Senate in the late October. Let me know what you think of this video in the comments below. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.